Pumpkin is the equivalent of putting a walnut on your plants. This power is incredibly strong as it easily protects a lot of your plants and could be considered one of the best plants in the game. I, however, am here to tell you why it is the best plant in the game. Hi, my name is Sasquatch, and since you guys seem to love my last plant analysis, I decided to make a series out of it. If you haven't seen my take on why Puffshroom is overrated and what Puffshroom is and an analysis of Puffshroom in general, I suggest you go watch that video right after you watch this one. Today, I'm talking about Pumpkin, which is, in my opinion, the best plant in Plants vs. Zombies. I have a lot to say about this plant, but it will be broken down into 3 categories: Adventure Mode, Minigames, and Survival. Again, since Puzzles is outside of the normal format of the game, I am going to skip it as it doesn't really add any value here. Of course, this is my opinion, and it is subjective. It's based off of personal experience with this plant, but I do believe that my arguments should be considered whenever talking about the best plant in the game. Alright, let's get into it. The best plant in Plants vs. Zombies? Pumpkin. Right before we jump in and get right into it with Adventure Mode, I have a couple of trivial things to say about the pumpkin. The plant costs 125 sun and has the same health as a walnut. It protects the plants on the inside of it, and this allows for quite a lot of versatility. The first thing I want to say is that you unlock pumpkin pretty late. Right after you beat 4-7 fog, pumpkin is definitely a late game plant. There are only a few exceptions to the protection of pumpkin. These exceptions are Tangle Kelp, Sea Shroom, Cob Cannon, and Gravebusters. These make sense though, because all of them have extraneous circumstances that keep Pumpkin from protecting them. All other plants are able to use Pumpkin to their advantage though. With a recharge time of 30 seconds, it can be planted many times throughout many other flags. It can protect plants from any stray zombies and counter several other zombies that might have given the player issues. These zombies include diggers, dolphin riders, ambush zombies, and imps. That alone makes it highly versatile and highly useful. With all of the basic stuff out of the way though, let's get into Adventure Mode. Adventure Mode for Pumpkin is a little bit weird. The plant can counter quite a few of the different problems that I just listed. However, it is quite late in the game and could be difficult to include in your arsenal. The fact that Pumpkin is late in the Adventure Mode does make it less powerful since you don't have it so early, but it probably would have been too overpowered if you had it earlier. With hardly any fog levels to go, it honestly doesn't get that much use in fog, but it can still get quite a lot of use even with the few levels that it has left. A great example is in the 5-5 roof level, where the player is given only chompers and cherry bombs as defensive plants. Pumpkin is given to the player in this level to show its use and its potential synergy with chompers. Not only that, but if the player hasn't used Pumpkin yet, this level demonstrates the best way to use Pumpkin, protecting other plants. After this level, the player has no excuse to not use pumpkins. It is also affected by the Walnut First Aid upgrade. So, if you pay attention to your pumpkins, you can keep plants protected for, well, indefinitely. You can keep them protected forever. So let's also talk about what it's useful in terms of the levels. So 4-10 and 5-5 use pumpkin, so that's 2. And then you have a choice for the rest of the levels, except for 5-10. It makes sense to grab pumpkin even if you might not use it that much. 125 sun isn't too hard to get in a regular game, and it does save you sun later whenever the plants get attacked. More on that when we get to survival though. Pumpkin can protect your high damage dealing plants, and this allows for Pumpkin to really capitalize on its protective abilities. Personally, I love using pumpkins with winter melons because they synergize together and create heavy damage with a tanky plant. A great example though for what pumpkin is useful for is whenever you use winter melons in the 3rd column, or any plant for that matter in the 3rd column. It protects the plant from imps that the Gargantuar throws. Another example would be the ambush zombies that come out at the end of your levels, and your pumpkins protecting those. Some of these strategies are better for survival games, but regardless, it does still help in adventure mode. That's about all I have for adventure mode. Let's move on. So surprisingly, Pumpkin actually has a lot of uses in minigames, but not as much as you might think. I want to first mention that it is incredibly useful in Zombotany and Zombotany 2. The extra protection that the Pumpkin provides is absolutely invaluable since unlike Walnut, you can save space and use the other squares for more damaging plants. Here, I won't talk about too much other than the places that it can be useful. For example, It's Raining Seeds has way too much RNG for it to even be considered because you can get pumpkin, but it's not really consistent when you do. It's not very useful up until you get to Column Like You See 'Em, but in this minigame specifically, it is extremely useful. Because of the high density of this level, pumpkins protecting an entire column of plants is insanely strong. Unfortunately, it does fall victim to Gargantuars squashing it. It does not see very much use in other difficult levels like Bobsled Bonanza and Pogo Party though, because the pumpkins are not able to counter those kinds of zombies. It is still good for things like Last Stand, however, and for the rest of the minigames, they aren't worth mentioning because they don't include pumpkin. It's usable in 10 minigames, but it is only truly viable in about 6 or 7, depending on if you use it for seeing stars. Pumpkin is still a good plant for minigames in that case, so let's move on to survival. So now that we've gotten to survival, it's time to crack down on casual and competitive play. First of all, survival is where casuals and competitive can come together in a certain way. Survival is a great way to use pumpkin, and it is able to be used throughout all flags of all of the survival levels, even endless. For both casual players and competitive players, pumpkin is the best protection plant during survivals, and it is especially good for survival endless. Remember how I said that pumpkin can save sun? Well, think about this. You decide that you wanted to do some kind of like gloom shroom strategy, using gloom shrooms at the front of your defense. Think about every time the pumpkin keeps the zombies from eating your glooms. Glooms are decently expensive, which each one costing 225 sun to put down, not to mention the time it takes to put the glooms down with the cooldown. Pumpkins are a part of this strategy because they save the glooms from the zombies and allow the entire strategy as a whole to exist. Pumpkin saves sun every single time that it protects a plant like a gloom, because it keeps the gloom from getting eaten and having to replace it, spending more sun. The same applies to literally every other plant that is more expensive than itself. It is easily worth the trouble to put down a pumpkin and protect the plant that is more expensive than it, because in the long run, you will end up saving tons of sun and it won't cause you so much worry. Another great example is to use winter melons. These cost 500 sun in total to plant and take a long time to recharge, so you do not want to lose them at all. Putting a pumpkin can save you so much time and sun in this situation so that you don't have to worry about replanting winter melons, and you can focus on putting down more damage dealers in order to deal more damage and kill the rest of the zombies. But that's about it for the normal and hard survivals. This isn't even endless yet. So again, I have endless in a separate subcategory here because it's a little bit different from everything else. But regardless, pumpkin is still very useful. Pumpkin makes every single survival endless strategy viable. Whether it's ambush zombies, imps, diggers, or dolphin riders, the pumpkin can protect every single part of your strategy that might have any holes in it at all. Any strategy that involves anything to do with cob cannons, and even cobless strategies, use pumpkins. You can look on YouTube and look up survival endless strategies, and a lot of things will come up for different things, but they will all have pumpkin in them. A ton of these strategies use pumpkin, and it's because it is the best when it comes to protecting other plants during endless runs. Aside from some weird tall nut strategies, it is the only plant that is able to save space and able to protect your plants in the way that it does. Regardless though, it's used in all of these strategies because it is an easy counter to all of the different zombies that could show up and destroy your defense. And that is about all that I have to say about pumpkin. Overall, it's a freaking awesome plant that is the best at what it does and can easily defend all of your defenses in all areas of the game. It makes survival endless extremely possible and easy. It does a great job in adventure mode, and it has crucial moments in minigames. Pumpkin to me is the best plant in the game, and this is exactly why. If you guys did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe for more plant analysis, and tell me, what plant do you want to see me do next? Of course, all of this is my opinion, and you can discuss down below in the comments what you think is the best plant in the game. I'd love to see what your answers are. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and have a freaking awesome day.